Hey guys, it is me, the Emerald Sword, and welcome back to another video, where today I will be reviewing Revival for you all. So of course, as it says right there, Revival is a book by Stephen King, and it is quite an experience. Like, I will just say that without spoilers yet, it is quite the experience. So basically, Revival follows a young boy named Jamie Morton as he grows up. He starts the book at 6 years old and it ends when he's 60. And it's just basically his life and his encounters with his now estranged pastor throughout his life. So, yeah, that's all I can really say without spoilers. So, book is going up. So, as soon as I put the book down, these spoilers will go away. So, yeah, as I said, Jamie Morton is a little 6-year-old child, and for his 6th birthday, he gets this, like, box of toy soldiers from his sister. And while he's playing with them one day, the new town pastor, because this takes place in Harlow, Maine, the new town pastor comes by and is like, interesting battle situation you have there. And, like, helps him plan his battle and stuff. And so, of course, the town gets acquainted to the new pastor, and, like, he has a beautiful wife and a son who everyone loves and stuff. So they're pretty good. But then a few years later, like 3 years later, the Reverend's name is Charles Jacobs, by the way. I guess I should have mentioned that. Charles Jacobs' wife and child get killed in a very horrific car accident. Like, their faces, like, disappear and stuff. It is horrific. So anyway, after that, Charles, Jacobs, he's like, yeah, God doesn't exist, religion doesn't exist, it's all fictional. And I'm not gonna get into, like, all of that stuff, but I'm just reporting what's in the book. So anyway, after his terrible sermon denouncing God and religion, he basically gets banished from the town because you don't want to hear that at a church. And so he just goes on with his life. And so of course, Jamie Morton grows up. He gets into a band as a teenager, has a girlfriend as a teenager, gets hooked on heroin as a teenager, and then all of that's going swell. And then in 1992, because this was in the 60s when his child years were, by the way, so in the 90s, he gets abandoned by his band, and so he goes to a local fair to look for drugs when he finds, oh, look at that, his old pastor doing portraits in lightning. And so basically he just has a girl blindfolded and then just takes a picture of her with lightning, and then boom, there you go. But so in the 30 years between when Jamie last saw Jacobs and now, Jacobs has kind of changed a little bit. He's still not a pastor anymore, but now his obsession is electricity. Like, he's really obsessed with electricity, and we don't really know why. Anyway, so back when Jamie was a child, his brother Con, short for Conrad, got, like, hit in the neck by something. I think it was like a skiing pole or something. But anyway, he lost his voice, but Charles Jacobs wrapped a thing around him with electricity, and then boom, got his voice back with electricity. And so that's kind of Charles's game now. So he does the same for Jamie, like, puts it on his head and rewires his brain to get off the heroin, and Jamie gets off the heroin. So that's pretty good. But anyway, so that's kind of where their acquaintances end. They go their separate ways. And then we don't hear from Charles Jacobs until about 2008-ish, I think. Yeah, so of course the book goes on, and Jamie's just living throughout his years and stuff. He's getting older and stuff. There's only like 3 of his siblings left. Keep in mind there were 5 kids before. Now there's like 3. So 2 of them have passed, unfortunately. But the stuff really gets interesting in about the 2013 to 2014 line of things. So, one day, Jamie gets a letter from Charles Jacobs, who's, like, really old now, and he's like, hey, I know that you didn't want to be my assistant before, but I am now dying, but I need you to be my assistant for one last experiment. One last experiment, I promise. And then so, Jamie's like, I don't know. But then he finds out a letter from what do you know? His girlfriend from back in the 70s who now has cancer and is dying. So then Jacobs basically says like, hey, if you come and be my assistant, I can save her. So then Jacobs like, yeah, he just goes right over there. And surprisingly, his girlfriend does get cured. Yeah, she had like really bad cancer and stuff, and the electricity cured her cancer. So that's pretty good. But so of course, Jamie has now become his assistant for about 2 months, which is where the final experiment will happen. And here's the really weird stuff that happens from the experiment. So, basically, Charles wants to know what happens at the end of life. Like, what is the afterlife like? Because he still thinks about his wife and son who were taken too early from all those decades ago. So he has one of the nurses kill someone, and then he attempts to revive her with electricity and ask her about what the afterlife is like. So he does the electricity thing, and she does come back. But we find out, because she does come back, but not as the girl that she once was, but she comes back as this horrific creature thing called Mother. And Mother rules like this null void of like chaos and death and stuff. And so basically, the afterlife, the afterlife is not heaven. It is not some sort of amazing thing that you would hope it would be. It's just a dark void called null of pain, misery, and suffering for all eternity. And that is pretty bad. And then Charles is like, no, my wife and son. So he has a heart attack and dies and stuff. Meanwhile, Jamie gets a revolver from like a bureau or something, and then shoots the girl like 5 times, I think, or 4 times. And then Mother leaves her body as she dies. So for right now, the world is saved. For right now, it is. Anyway, so yeah, Jamie just flees and moves to Hawaii. And so years later, he's telling this all to his psychiatrist, and the psychiatrist doesn't believe him, because honestly, who would at that point? But as he's walking out of the psychiatrist, he sees a door, because he's actually the key to the doorway to the afterlife. I don't know. I just read the books, man. I don't write them. Anyway, so because he's the doorway, or because he's the key to the doorway, he sees the door with Mother calling him, and he realizes that one day he will die, and then he will have to face Mother. So yeah, that's kind of how the book ends. And so the spoiler section is over, so the book is going down. But Revival is certainly a strange one. Like, I've read a lot of Stephen King books. I think this is either number 43 or 44 that I've read. So I've read quite a bit of Stephen King's up to this point. And this is by far one of the weirdest and most existential books I've read by Stephen King. So, do I like it? Yes, I think it's really entertaining. And it also came out in 2014, so it is a newer Stephen King. And I've heard like great things about this book. I don't hear anything but great books about Revival. I've also heard from everyone that the ending was like super dark and disturbing. So, before I read the book, I was like, what? How could this book possibly end in a way where it would be so dark and disturbing? And having read the book, I now know. And if you paid attention to the spoiler section, now you know as well. But anyway, so I really liked Revival. It was certainly a strange one, but I could see myself coming back to it within like a year or two and just enjoying it all over again, because it was so fun. As I said, it takes place over the course of like 6 decades. He starts it out when he's 6 years old and ends it when he's just about to turn 61. So you get a lot of his life there, a lot of decades, a lot of stuff happens. And also, it's actually quite short, which is surprising for a book that takes place over several decades. But yeah, so the audiobook was like 13 and a half hours, I think. So if you've read like Misery or like Pet Cemetery or something, it's along the lines of those. Or if you want to get more specific, The Green Mile was about the same length. So yeah, it doesn't take a lot to read. You could finish it in like a week. I did it in 5 days, but you could finish it in like a few days to a week if you wanted to. But yeah, it's really entertaining. It's really good. And I will say this cover particularly that I have here, it's kind of more subtle about the themes of it, because as you can see, Revival right there has some lightning around it, and that's kind of it. There is another cover that came out, I think, around the same time that has like a tiny little church building with a lot of like the ground underneath, but like a giant lightning strike going underground, which is more, I guess, in your face. And then, of course, the hardcover is just Stephen King's name with just like a giant lightning bolt in the middle of it. So this cover right here is certainly the most subtle one, but I think it's pretty good. It covers your religion and it covers your lightning, which is like the main stuff about it. But yeah, I think the message of this book is really good about like addiction and fanaticism and stuff. But yeah, I really enjoyed Revival. But yeah, so I'd recommend Revival. If you haven't read it yet, go read it. It's pretty good. But anyway, that is about all the time I have for you guys today. Thank you so much for watching this video. Be sure to like the video if you have not already, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching this video. You have been released now, and I've been Ben from the Emerald Sword, and I will see you guys next time.